And I want you to know one thing. It's been a pleasure. You just like to dance, don't you, Carl?
That's right.
You like to dance. That was famous. Hello, welcome to One-on-One. I'm your host, Greg Walker. Mercy, we've got a good show lined up today. Longtime friend. You know, we've been friends for almost 60 years, as a matter of fact. We've got a lot of great memories. We'll share some of them with you today. I said some of them. You know, he's a he's a special guy. I've always said he can make a dollar bill run a 100-yard dash. Louis Wilson is his name. Louis is retired, and he's still in great shape. He rides a bicycle like we did back when I was in my teens and younger than that. Settle back, relax. I think you're going to enjoy a fun, down-to-earth conversation with two men that have called each other friends for many years. We'll be back with our guest, Louis Wilson, right after these words.
It's the Altima and Rogue event
at Matthews Nissan, voted Clarksville's best place to buy a car.
Big savings now on 700 new and used.
Get a new Altima, $16,524, or new Versa, $10,760. New Rogue, $18,923. $14,000 off a new Titan. Incredible!
You're gonna love our extra New Year's savings.
MatthewsNissan.com.
You're gonna love our prices. Matthews Nissan.
For 100 years, Neil Tarpley Parchman Funeral Home has celebrated legacies with services as unique as each life.
Neil Tarpley Parchman, people who care, a name you can trust.
Welcome to our show today. Louis Wilson is our guest.
But Mr. Greg,
Louis.
how you doing?
Buddy.
What did we say a few minutes ago? We count our friendship in decades instead of years?
Steve said, well, y'all been friends about 5 years? You said, what, about 5 decades?
At least. Over 5 decades.
Closing in on 6, I think, somewhere in there. But you know we do, and I said it on the intro, we have some wonderful memories, don't we?
Oh, yeah, just amazing.
I mean, we grew up at a special time. Of course, I think any of the baby boomers would, well, maybe say that, but we didn't have a whole lot of money, but we sure had a whole lot of fun.
Well, we were blessed with great homes, great parents.
Yep.
And they always provided what we needed.
Yep.
And we didn't know anything about wanting anything because you had what your parents could provide you, and that was it. But that was fine. I think we did all right.
I wonder how many miles we've ridden on bicycles. Think of that. Never thought anything about it. We just rode.
And you always wanted to tear something up, and I was trying to keep you out of trouble most of the time.
You're still riding today.
Still riding today.
I mean, I wish I could. Yeah. How often do you ride, Louis?
It depends on the weather. If it's a good day, and I used to ride down in the 20s, but now I ride down to about 45. But if the weather's good, I'll ride. About 6,000 a year.
6,000 miles a year?
Mm-hmm.
And 68 years old.
Right.
You don't mind saying that?
No, don't mind it. I'm proud of them.
Yeah, amen.
Absolutely.
Amen. My gosh, mark it up. I'd like to say 78, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, we live in the Port Royal area.
Yeah, a good area to ride, I guess.
Perfect. I can leave the house and get on all the back roads and go to Elkton or Trenton or Guthrie or just anywhere I want to go, and there's very little traffic, so it's perfect for that.
I mean, can you tell you slowed down much?
I can tell I have slowed down quite a bit.
Can you?
I still do the miles, but it takes longer to do them.
Well, now you wear the helmet and the whole deal. In our day, we didn't even think about that, did we?
No.
And what about gears? I didn't have any gears on my bike.
I only have 30 on mine, the one I'm riding now.
Is that all? Mm-hmm. How many do you use?
Oh, maybe 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Something like that.
Put 30 on them, but 5 or 6. Tell us about your family, Louis.
Well, I've lost, of course, Mom and Dad are gone. My brother and sister are doing fine.
Yeah.
Married, Sheila's my wife, and I have a son, John. I call him John Winston, but everybody in Clarksville calls him John.
I call him John Winston.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
He was married back in July to Madison Thomas, and
Boy, she's a lovely gal. I was looking at pictures of her this morning.
I told you earlier, Greg, he did a lot better than she did. I guarantee you that.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, John Winston's made a very fine-looking young man.
Yeah, he's a good young man, or good boy to me.
Working at Manning, Smith and Cummings. isn't
Right. Went to the P and finished in 4 years, thank goodness.
he? Amen.
And just started in the
Great
insurance.
school.
Absolutely.
We don't have any complaints, do
No,
we? We're both P grads.
Yeah, and he's loving what he's doing. He's in the insurance business, and I don't know. He seems to have found his place. He really does like it.
He takes after Dad.
No, I hope not much.
Well, let me ask you this. Can you make a dollar bill run a 100-yard dash?
No, but he's working to about 75. No, we're really blessed. He's a fine young man and just could not be happier with Madison. They're just a really nice young couple.
That's great.
Madison's a algebra teacher at Clarksville High, and we know what we think about Clarksville High.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Phil's pride, forward into battle stride. We've sang that a few times, haven't we?
Sure have.
And I guarantee you, when we all stood up, we sang it. We put that hand over that heart for the national anthem too, didn't we? Back in those days.
You know, we back in the day, I'd lead the assemblies.
You were president of the student body.
Yeah, but I'd lead the assembly, and that Pledge of Allegiance was very special.
Oh, it was.
Everybody stood up, and it really meant something to all of us.
It did.
Just
We have pledged our allegiance to that flag, buddy.
right.
And we've had it, think of all the friends we've had die, you know, fighting for
us, our freedom.
You know,
Yeah,
that's all they knew.
Yeah.
They were fighting to live, really,
right.
stay alive.
Vietnam took a world of our friends away
A world,
from us.
just great friends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, great friends.
And early, I mean, they were all basically just out of high school. Never
Yeah.
had an opportunity to have a life and
No.
have families. And
No, not at all.
that was a tough time, Greg.
It was. It was a tough time for everybody during that era right there.
Right.
And look back on that war, it makes you sick, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Did you see that documentary on the Vietnam War?
Yes, I did.
Boy, would that open your eyes?
Yeah, I think about that quite a bit. And, you know, we lost a lot of friends, but you and I lost one real particular friend.
Yeah.
And
Bob Schumacher.
think about Bob all the time. And
Walter Taylor, too, was
Right.
a good man.
it was just
Johnny Perrin was the first from here to die. But go ahead with Bob.
just a tough time. But I think about Bob quite often. Being from Russellville, and that's where Bob and Gary came from, I go through there quite a bit, and I don't know, just always brings back memories to me.
Do you remember when we used to go to Russellville on our way to Louisville? We would go to Louisville quite a bit to see our good friend, my first cousin and good friend, Mickey Darnell. We'd stay there for a weekend.
Dear, dear, dear friend.
Oh, no doubt about it. But we'd stop in Russellville at your grandmother's, right there on the left as you come in. She made a mean breakfast, didn't she?
She wouldn't know we'd be coming, and didn't matter what time of day, in about 15 minutes we'd have a full meal on the
She'd
table.
have it.
Yeah.
She'd have it, wouldn't she?
Yeah. Mickey used to talk about that all the time. Over the years, when he and Cheryl would come to Clarksville and come through there, he always thought, well, I ought to stop and eat.
Yeah, right there on the right coming into Clark, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, weren't you born and raised in Russellville?
Well, I was born in Russellville. When we came to Clarksville, I was in about the second grade.
Second grade.
My dad worked for my maternal grandfather in Russellville as a butcher, made $50 a week.
Huh.
And in about 55 or something like that, from Frosty Morn offered him a job making $75 a week. So he packed up Mom and the 3 children, and we moved to Clarksville because he had a 50% increase in pay.
Right.
Hey,
Well,
can you imagine such a thing?
No, but back then, that wasn't bad money.
No, and bought a brick house and nice house.
That wasn't the one y'all lived on at Memorial Drive, though.
No, that's the house that Aaron Smith lived in, and Terry and all of them grew up in.
Really?
They bought that house from us.
No kidding.
Sure did.
Over in Beach Haven.
Right.
Well, I'll be done.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that all the time.
Yeah.
That's something new to me right there.
Yeah, we lived there for about 18 months, and then Dad was transferred to Bowling Green, and we moved to Bowling Green for 18 months, and then came back, and then that's when we bought the house on Memorial Drive.
On Memorial Drive.
And that's when we started riding bicycles.
Oh, that's right.
About that time.
That's exactly right. Now tell everybody what you have done over the years as far as making a living, and he's done well.
Well, I've just barely gotten by.
Oh, Louis. Tell somebody.
Out of Austin P, I worked in the accounting department, Acme Boot Company for Bill Glover. William Glover was the vice president of finance. And whatever education I've really had that helped me was working with Mr. Bill.
Really?
He was an amazing person. And then I left there and worked in the car business for 15 years in accounting. And then when I found out I was going to have John Winston, my time was pretty well taken by the car business, and I wanted to do more than that.
Right.
I wanted to be able to be available for him.
Because you spent a lot of hours there.
Oh, yeah. It was really demanding. So anyway, I left there and went into the insurance and securities business and did that for years, and that allowed me to set my own schedule. When he was in kindergarten, I was volunteered 1 day a week in his kindergarten. I was a teacher helper 1 day a week.
Really?
And up through the 4th grade, I'd have lunch with him 2 or 3 times every week.
Yeah.
So by getting into the other business, it allowed me to be the father to him that I wanted to be. And I don't know if it helped him, but it sure did help me.
It helped him, and it helped you. And
yeah. And then when I retired from that business, I had a friend in the trucking business, and he wanted to open up a freight portion, the logistics end of it. So he and I did that. And then in 2011, my wife said, you know, you don't really need to work anymore. Why don't you just call it quits and stay home? I said, works for me. So I retired in 2011, and all I do now is ride my bike, and I still canoe and kayak and do woodworking. I make boat paddles and stuff. So
aren't you blessed to be in the physical shape you're in?
Just unbelievable.
And I'm part of the reason why. You quit smoking in '68.
Right.
I was talking about that this morning. It was because of me, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
We made a bet.
Made a bet, and you never paid me. But we did make a bet.
Now, you told me this morning I did pay you.
Yeah, but I want to talk to the audience now.
Louis Wilson's our guest. The show's one-on-one. Think of how much money I saved you over the years. You're not buying cigarettes.
Thank goodness that boy wouldn't have eaten it hadn't been for you.
Yeah. Segment 2 right after this.
For 100 years, Neil Tarpley Parchment Funeral Home has honored legacies. We believe every family deserves a special time of celebrating a life well lived.
Neil Tarpley Parchment, people who care, a name you can trust.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, our guest is Louis Wilson. Louis is retired. We've been friends ever since we were just youngsters riding bikes together, and fond memories.
Playing baseball, playing basketball, anything we could anything we could play. If we had a baseball that wasn't torn apart, we'd play.
You know, really and truly, wonder why I guess they're so inside oriented today. We looked for something to play, something with the ball, didn't we?
I don't remember how much it was, Greg, but I remember one day I ended up with 50 cents or 75 cents or something, I don't know what it was. And I remember getting on my bike and riding to Burton Gold's hardware store and buying a new baseball.
Huh.
Because all the baseballs we used had electrical tape on them and everything else. Don't you remember?
Yeah.
Old bats broken, wire them together. And, you know.
You remember we was playing over at Barksdale one day when we were just kids, and old Weasel Reynolds was playing in the outfield. Somebody hit a high pop-up, and old Weasel was hit him on the head and went over the fence.
Yeah, too. And you used to play basketball out there at Barksdale in that crazy little gym they had.
Oh, yeah, the Bomber Dome.
And Zoot Parker would come out there.
Oh, Zoot, that little hike that leg and shoot that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had that little hike and shoot. You know, I was talking with a friend of mine who's going to be a guest on here, Cal Hampton. Zoot is down in Florida now, and he likes being up here, but his health is, he's been a young man for a lot of years.
Oh, wow.
I mean, my gosh.
When we first moved to Clarksville in the 50s, Mom would go to Rankin's on Franklin, and Zoot worked there, and that's where she would buy our clothes, and that's when I got to know Zoot sometime.
Really?
In the 50s, early 60s, something like that. Yeah.
What a sharp fella.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You talking about a loyal Austin Peay supporter. Well, that's been Zoot over the years.
Yeah. Fine family.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
You know, 3 wonderful children, and then there was little Jody.
Yeah.
She didn't live that long, but they loved her.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they loved her. And we lost Kitten. Oh, boy.
Boy, Zoot and Kitten could dance, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could.
Goodness gracious.
They could wear that flow out. They could wear that flow out. You still shake a mean leg?
Absolutely. My son got married in July, and at the reception, someone said to my wife, said, "Why aren't you dancing with him?" And she said, "Well, because he's dancing with every woman in this place, everybody besides me." So we had a big time. But I just love to dance.
What about your years at the P, Lewis? What year did you graduate?
71.
71? Mm-hmm. You graduated right before Fly.
Yeah.
You know. Good times.
Oh, my. Out the Little Red Barn.
Yeah.
Fly sitting down at half court. Game still going on.
Yeah.
Or he gets up and scores 20 points in a quarter or something, you know.
Yeah.
Just amazing, wasn't he?
He was amazing.
But now he had a sporting cast in those days that they were all good ball players. And that's something a lot of people don't talk about when they talk about Fly.
Danny Odoms at point guard. Dynamic. Couldn't ask for a better one. Fly was the 2. Eddie Childress, the 3. You know, Eddie was drafted by the Bucks. Chili Dog had that. If it had been a 3-point shot, he wore that out. And of course, your 2 post players were Howard Jackson and Percy Howard.
Right. And Percy went to the Dallas Cowboys.
Matter of fact, caught the first touchdown pass by a rookie in Super Bowl history.
Right.
Sure did.
And Howard Jackson, if he hadn't gotten hurt at Cumberland City,
fell through the
skylight or
something.
He might have really.
He
might have played on as
he
good as he was.
He would have been an NBA player.
Yeah.
It's no question.
Yeah, but you know, as I said, that's something a lot of people don't talk about when Fly's name's mentioned. That was a real team all the way through.
Jerry Weinstraw was 6 man.
That's right.
6'5", 6', 7", so whatever he was in there.
I'll tell you a funny story, Greg. I was at a JC meeting one night, and Lake Kelly came out.
Hook Turner was the guard 6 man too. Don't want to miss him.
Lake Kelly came out, who was coach of the P in those days.
Oh yeah.
And he was talking about the upcoming season, and somebody said, "Coach, we understand you signed somebody from New York and supposed to be a really good player." He said, "That's right." And someone said, well, we understand it might be a problem with grades that he might not even be able to sign his name. Blake said, don't worry about that. We'll get his name signed. That was in the old days.
That was in the old days. But you know what? He told the truth.
Absolutely.
He did. Boy, what a way to die. Like I would see him and Marty every year when I'd go to Moorhead with the Govs, calling the games, and they'd always come down. We'd visit. You know, I even had Lake on post game for interviews and all. You know, he went in for at kidney stone, went in and they were going to laser it or whatever they do, and perforated his kidney, and the poison got in him and he died.
My goodness.
I mean, the only time it's minor surgery, and that's say it's minor surgery, is when it happens to somebody else. Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, it's serious stuff. But
He left the P and went to Oral Roberts, didn't he?
he did. He
And
sure
stayed
did.
there probably 4 or 5 years or something.
And then he ended up as an assistant coach on the bench at Kentucky with Joe B. Hall.
That's right, I remember that.
And you know, Leonard is still Hamilton's. He's Florida State.
Oh, yeah, he's done really well.
He went with the Wizards, got him some millions, you know. and So Leonard's doing good. Matter of fact, I had Leonard, he called into our sports talk show every Monday and Thursday, 4 to 6, 1400 WJZM. It was a couple of years ago, but he told me anytime I wanted him to call him, he hadn't changed, just as down to earth as ever. You know, he's the one that got Fly.
Oh,
He's
is that
the
right?
one that got Danny. That was Leonard Hamilton.
Well, that was a great team.
There was.
And people in Clarksville
I
now.
think it's the best team, not only in Governor history, I think it's one of the best teams in Ohio Valley Conference history. I know Western with Jim McDaniels, Rose, and Glover, they went to the Final Four.
Right.
But that team was a Sweet 16 team. You know, they beat Jacksonville. Then they was in the Sweet 16, played Kentucky.
Almost beat
To
Kentucky.
go to the Elite Eight, well, went to overtime.
Played them at Vanderbilt,
They
didn't they?
did. Now,
Yeah.
if you remember, Eddie Childress took a shot to win it at the end of that game, and he was hammered. No foul call. Had he had Kentucky across that jersey,
Been a different
he'd
story.
gone to
wouldn't
the
it?
free throw line.
Yeah.
But got beat in overtime, 106 to 100 in overtime. How
I
about
was sitting
that?
about as high as you could get in Vanderbilt at that time watching that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy,
Just having a fit.
old Memorial Gym. I love that gym.
Yeah. But talking about the gym, people who have been in Clarksville for 30 years think they know the town. But if you didn't live here during the Little Red Barn days, you didn't know basketball.
Boy.
I mean, was that place just wild?
Oh, when Lake Kelly and that bunch came, it was a different world.
I don't believe most nights you couldn't put another mouse inside
Oh
that thing.
man, they had to build these platforms where people could stand on them in the corners.
Yeah.
Standing room only, and they'd have to stand on these platforms they built in the corners of the gym. I mean, as many as they could pack. I don't guess it was any fire codes.
I was going to say that
My
earlier.
gosh, you know, it was unbelievable. Well, I'm going to tell you, you and I witnessed one of the greatest sporting events. I think it was the greatest in Clarksville history. We'll talk about it when we come back right after this.
It's the Altima and Rogue event.
At Matthews Nissan, voted Clarksville's best place to buy a car.
Big savings now on 700 new and used.
Get a new Altima, $16,524, or new Versa, $10,760. New Rogue, $18,923. 14 grand off a new Titan. Incredible!
You're going to love our extra New Year's savings.
MatthewsNissan.com.
You're gonna love our prices. Matthews Nissan.
Well, we've got just a little over 3 minutes, so I'll have to make the story short. But 67, we got to see, that started integration. We got to see the Bird High Tigers, the Clarksville Wildcats, Little Red Barn, had to lock the doors after the B-team game. Wasn't any women's basketball. One of the wildest games, events
in Clarksville history.
In history.
Right.
Without question.
Right.
Sports history for sure. And even in history, not just sports history. They don't need to forget that. I try to remind people at times, Louis, it's been a pleasure, man. You got to tell us the best advice you've ever received.
Best advice I've ever received?
Yes, sir.
I'd probably have to go back to my days at Level's Market.
Boy, George Level.
George Level.
Gosh.
He said, just treat everybody the same. Doesn't matter who they are, what they have, or what they don't have. Everybody's the same. George,
smart man. Smart man. George was good with a dollar, too, wasn't he?
Oh. Yeah, George has dollars in his billfold that he cannot spend because they're too old. They're out of date. If anybody knows George, they know that's the truth.
Boy, I'm going to tell you, I miss the Levels Markets, the Davenports, the Martins IGAs, the Worthams Food Towns.
Hilldale.
Go on and on.
Oh, yeah. Laws Market.
Laws Market.
Yeah.
High-low. Boy,
that's amazing.
It's what's done it, and it's a shame.
Yeah,
it really is. Those places were, and I was talking to a good friend of ours. I was talking to Norris Higgett. He was talking about the old country stores, how they used to have so much fun sitting in there and just shooting the bull and talking and playing checkers or whatever. I mean, we're missing out on a lot today, aren't we?
Do you know, Greg, there's a general store in Guthrie? And people still come in there at lunch and they'll make them a bologna sandwich or a ham sandwich, and they'll get them a bottled Coke and sit in the back and have lunch.
Where is that located in Guthrie?
If you coming
from Clarksville.
From Clarksville, and you go down the main, you come down, you make that hard right, and it's in the next block. It's on the right. It's called Longhurst.
Longhurst.
General Store. I'm in there all the time.
Really?
Absolutely. And across the street's a hardware store. And so 2 or 3 times a day, all the guys gather up in there, and then they go across the street to lunch and get them a bologna sandwich or something. Boy. And I go through on my bicycle on my little tight britches.
Oh, I bet they like that.
When I first started stopping there, they just kind of look at me.
I bet they would.
But now if I go in there, I've got an old worn out truck, and I drive it up there, and they'll say, well, boy, why don't you on that bicycle?
Louis, it's been a pleasure, buddy.
Greg, I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You know I love you.
Love you too.
Tell the family hello.
We'll do that. Thanks so much.
Louis Wilson, hope you've enjoyed the show. Tell your friends, neighbors, and loved ones, and until the next time, have a nice rest of the day, folks.